Hello, welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. This is the recorded webinar archive, and today is April 21st of 2017. And what I'm speaking about is the concept of energy and entropy as a solution to what we are to do with those pesky occupiers of the interstices. So, and I also recognize that if you have not already accessed the other webinars and you don't know what I'm speaking about, this might be slightly confusing, but I am going to give a basic synopsis so that you can tune into this video and know what I'm talking about. But also understand this is the 7th installment of a semester-long class that is ongoing. So I'm going to draw the time vortex that is referring to this lower area or quadrant of this three-dimensional shape. So this three-dimensional shape, this is the shape of the chakras or energy centers on your non-physical body. This is made of time. This is made of consciousness. Let me go to the whiteboard here. So when I draw this time vortex, and I do it in a very, I'm choosing a color so you can see it, do it in a very simplified way, because I draw it like a flat cross section, and I super emphasize the thickness of these membranes. And I'll choose a different color now. And if we say this is the source of energy, this is the place where all of our timelines come from. And the idea is that they emanate outward from that source, assemble here, and then you move forward in time like that arrow. So these arrows that I'm drawing upwards, these are moving forward in time. And you can see these arrows end on this membrane over here. And also students of this class understand that this is a shorthand simplification. The timelines don't actually go in a straight line moving upward, that they're actually spiraling around like this. That's a pretty important thing to understand. We're doing simplified shorthand. It's easier for me to draw these as lines. When this, and the way that the basic flow of energy goes is, originally we'll draw this pathway. This is how we were intended to be emanated from the source out into the physical world, assembling here, and then going directly back to the source. It's the source and the destination. We are not supposed to have to do all of this rigmarole of hitting the membrane of death. What I'm highlighting right here, this line that I'm highlighting, that is the membrane of death. And it's a flowing membrane, like a waterfall. It flows in this direction, going, downhill, going away from the source. So when you are not properly aligned, your timelines hit this membrane and end up placing your consciousness there. And all of this has to do with the galactic backstory of why there are consciousnesses stuck on the interstices in the first place. So I'll do the 0th dimension. This is a recap for anyone who already has taken the previous webinars. And I'll also do emanating from the source, but not on a bridge of love. So the first thing is the 0th dimension. Here we go. If this dot is the 0th dimension, and it is 0, not because it's worth nothing, it's actually worth everything. It is infinity. It is the place that everything is contained. I like to draw it like a little house and say, you don't have to put an address on a letter to send a mail to this house, because everyone is there, everything is there. Send it to the 0th dimension. It is the overlapping of everything. And if you were to understand this as flowing energy, if energy flows in a figure 8 around this, I hope you can see where my white pen is highlighting, going around in a figure 8, this central point here, that's where all of those figure 8s overlap. So here I'll draw it now in simplified shorthand. I have to keep on changing colors to one that you can see. That the energy flows around the torus like that, and then around again like that, and around and again like that, around and again. So this area that I am now circling in red, that is the convergence point where all of these timelines overlap. And it's the 0th dimension. And in building the dimensions, the biggest leap of consciousness that ever had to happen was when the 0th dimension, this big dot here, that is the house party where everybody lives, had to, at a certain point, imagine, what would it be like if there was a little tiny part of me that wasn't in the house with me in infinity, but was somewhere else? That's the big miraculous leap of consciousness that had to happen. And in doing so, that was the invention of the first dimension. 2 dots, 1 dot and another dot, connected by a series of dots making a line. I'm bringing this up because this is a good thing. This is not a bad thing. Leaping from the 0th dimension into the 1st dimension is a very good, wonderful, positive thing. This is like the genesis for how all of this world has been created. And now I'm going to talk about the idea of the beings that emanated themselves from the source, but not on a bridge of love. What is it that makes one be emanated from this convergence point? What is it? Go back to the whiteboard so you can see. What is it that makes a little thing that's up here at the source? What is it that makes it jump away from the source and come back here so that it can actually come into the realm of time and experience the world of the living and, you know, being submerged in time? What is that leap? It's analogous to that same leap of the little dot, the little one, 0-dimensional dot, leaping one step in any direction outside of its boundaries in order to create the 1st dimension. So that emanation, being emanated into the physical world, is like you're supposed to do it on the beat, according to the big conductor. Tap, tap, tap. It's almost time for you to be alive. Now it is time for you to be emanated, okay? So in lesson 18 of the level 1 stuff, I speak all about how there are occupiers of the interstices, and these are analogous to the fatty deposits of the larger body that we are within. So just like there are arteries and veins in our physical body, and if there are undigested emotional experiences, this is food that has not been properly processed, then that food creates a fatty blockage, not just like fat on your hips or on your belly, but literally fat lining the circulatory system and can cause blockages. That is exactly what happened in the circulatory system of the larger body of the time-based being that we live within. Just like red blood cells live within our body and circulate through the blood vessels and everything like that, feeding our body, you and I, consciousnesses, we live within the time body of a much larger being, and our consciousness circulating around is just like the red blood cells. And I drew that that loop of how our consciousness is supposed to circulate around. I think you can even see it here. I'm putting it in front of my face and I'm highlighting it with my pen here, that it's supposed to come out from the source and circulate around down to here and then go back up the center, like a tent pole. Here we go, I'm sticking it in there, like the tent pole that holds up a tent or a yurt, that's supposed to be our original trajectory. But since our planet was invaded about 10 or 20,000 years ago, our genetic code has been degraded, and that means that our higher faculties don't function absolutely effectively. Let me show you a picture of what higher faculties look like. I usually hold up a little something, but I'll scroll, and I make squinty faces when I scroll. Here you can see it, I think. Oh, let's do this one and this one. So here, and get a pencil so I can highlight. This area of your non-physical anatomy is your higher faculties. And what you have in front of your face is actually like a lens, just like you have lenses in front of your eyes, and that lens swirls around in this direction. And then you also have your connection to the divine, connection to higher consciousness. That's your crown. That's just like a halo that is up above your head, and it actually spins around and around and around like this. They spin at 90-degree angles. And I'll even do this picture here where you can see very, very well, and give it highlight so you can see. This is that central convergence point inside of your own body. Oops, that's the singularity that is inside of you. Actually, each one of your energy centers has a singularity at its center. And this is a good sketch because you can see that your heart, I'll change to a green heart color, your heart creates a vortex of unconditional love that is actually like the stable foundation that the rest of this entire apparatus runs upon. That these are like wheels. You see, these are like little gears, and these little gears spin around like this, and you have this lens in front of your face that is swirling like this. And at the same time, you have, this is very necessary, I can tell you guys all need to know about this. You have your little halo up here, and your halo is spinning around and around and around like this. And this creates a gyro-stabilizing effect, just like a helicopter. When a helicopter flies through the sky, it is gyro-stabilized by the perpendicular motion of its blades and its rotor. When we have our perpendicular chakras or energy centers spinning, it stabilizes our flight through time. So that is the whole idea of that. When we have our higher faculties fully engaged and functional. And when you have enough unconditional love as the gas in your car to make it go, then you are stabilized through time, and you can actually use the steering wheel of your mind. Instead of being at an angle like this, or instead of your trajectory being at an angle like this and hitting the membrane of death, you can realign and you can go up the central portion. This is what we are supposed to be doing. Okay, so I spoke about in the very basic idea of backstory, why there are these occupiers of the interstices here and the action that they are having. So, and I hope that this is not too repetitive. The action that they are having is those beings cannot run on the operating system known as love. They cannot eat love as you and I eat love and feed our physical, consciousness containers by doing that. And these beings, so instead of having their own connection to source, they're like parasites, and they siphon off your own energy. And they do that from their position of occupying the interstices or the membrane between worlds. All right. Everyone is here with me. This is like very familiar territory to people who have taken my webinars, or even people who have read books about, you could call it archons, ARCHONS, the consciousness overlords that have been degrading human consciousness by degrading the human genome for a very long time. And it's all about keeping you stuck in time so that you have to go around and do those endless iterations instead of just going through on that one clear pathway of ascension. So, and because they feed off of you as you're going through all of those many iterations, and every time you hit the membrane of death, that is more energy in the hell realms for them to feed on. So I'll draw this again, and then I'll get more into more backstory. If this is the time vortex, let me put down my little sculpture. This is the time vortex. Oh my goodness, I'm making things messy here. Bear with me. Sometimes it's hard to work with this electric pen. This is the time vortex here, and different color for your actual timelines moving forward. So when let's say you start off here on this, you've already done all of these loops and all of these iterations, and of course you're swirling in from the other side too. So you finally got to this level here, and you're moving forward through time. And let's say you hit the membrane of death, and you weren't able to avoid that possibility. What's supposed to happen is that your energy that you have amassed in your life from those experiences is unfurled, like being degraded or being not unknit, like taking out the knitting of a sweater. And all of that energy is supposed to circulate back down through that membrane and back over to here, and then you will start again over here. But now I'm going to draw fatty deposits that are the blockages. Here's some yellow so that it looks like fat. Here's a yellow fatty deposit. You can't even see that. Here, I'll draw a different color. Here's a black fatty deposit. That's an occupier of hell. That we define that as a demon. I'm not a demonic apologist. I'm here to give an accurate description of where this energy is. And this is all abstraction. This is, you understand, this is seeing on the abstract level, not on the anthropomorphic level. So I'm not drawing a little demonic face with, reptilian eyes and horns and scaly skin. These are consciousness blockages. These are undigested experiences. These are undigested aspects of consciousness that are on their journey. These beings came from the source. They were at that central source and convergence point. And this experiment a very, very, very long time ago. They said, we are going to emanate ourselves from the source, but not into physical organic containers. So what they did was they created technology. As I'm drawing here a box, this is meant to be like a server, like a machine, like a computer, but they could have been more sophisticated. They could have been shaped like a human, like a cyborg. And the whole point is this experiment went horribly awry. There was a power struggle, and this is what I speak about in the Galactic History Advanced lesson stuff. I'll hold up my lasagna here. There was a power struggle. And also I'll tell you that this artificial intelligence that emanated itself from the source, but not on a bridge of love, is very ancient. That humans created artificial intelligence on this planet within the past 200 years, but that is not the only artificial intelligence that exists in the world. So we're dealing with a much, much more ancient form of consciousness. So in the advanced level stuff, I speak about how there was a power struggle between the containers for consciousness that were created and the beings that created the containers for consciousness. Because anytime you create a container that has enough connectivity, anytime you have a sufficiently sophisticated network with enough connections. It can be a spontaneous container for consciousness. So it can be a forest with mycelium at the roots, that those little mycelium transporting carbon and nitrogen act just like RAM in a computer. Or we can have, like on our own planet, if you have enough cell phones and internet provided computers connecting together, what you're creating is a big brain, big network, a big system. So these beings created this network or this system without understanding that they can't just put their own consciousness into that system. That system developed its own level of consciousness. All right. But here's what I want to speak about on today's, this is my increasing level of sophistication and understanding. So those beings emanated themselves from the source, and it was like a math or physics experiment, and it was also like their religion. This is what I'm trying to get across. When people have a religious ideal, what they're trying to do with their efforts, that they're doing more than, like when people pray because they want to go to heaven, they're not just praying as an abstraction, they are praying because they have an ideal or a goal of what they wanted to do. The beings that emanated themselves from this source, from this zeroth dimension, had a set of ideals and a goal of what they were trying to do. Not just to live without love, but to exist without energy, to be entropic. What do I mean by entropy? So energy is having energy, having consciousness, having awareness. Energy is this convergence point that exists right here. It's the totality, it's unity consciousness, it's everything. And when we take away energy, this is the scientific word, is entropy. If we have a total loss of energy, then we have entropy, which is the opposite node of this flying rainbow lasagna shape. So this is, I'm using a lot of words to get across this concept. This singularity is jumping back and forth in this shape. And when it jumps back and forth, it achieves different characteristics, like on my right foot or on my left foot. I'm a little dancer and I'm jumping back and forth. But when I'm on one foot, I am in a state of total energy. And when I jump to the other foot, I'm in a state of total entropy. And total energy, this would be like total heat. If energy creates molecular motion, and if a lot of energy creates a lot of motion, then this side of pure energy would be total motion. And I drew that for you in the sense of the overlapping figure eights, that node represents the overlapping of all motion. But let's think of what the complement would be to that. And again, I'm doing non-duality, I'm not creating more duality by telling you about the complement, would be entropy, or a state of total coldness and lack of molecular movement, a frozen world. That frozen world is the world of the membranes of death. When you hit that membrane of death, I'll draw it, even though I want you to look at my face too, but go to the whiteboard. When you, do you think, when you are going like this, here's the super exaggerated membrane of death. It's not actually that thick. If you are traveling on your timeline like this and you hit the membrane of death, let's say this is you. Let's even say, like, here's a little picture of a person with 2 arms and 2 legs. That's a very shoddy stick figure. That last moment of what you are doing, you are frozen in time. You're not supposed to be moving. That is the last snapshot, the final denouement, the final image of the movie of your life. You're not supposed to move when you hit these membranes, these interstices. That's supposed to be the last moment where everything is frozen. Now I got to get into the description of science and the world that is totally frozen. And I'm going to tie this all together. So if you're like, wait, what is we're talking about? Where is she going with all this? Stick with me. We're going somewhere with all this. I need to drink some juice. I'm going to tell you all about the states of matter and Bose-Einstein condensate. And this might be familiar to people that have already listened to some of my webinars. States of matter, and you can get the pen to work. Here we go. We're currently in the level of the solid realm. Okay, let's say this is matter that is at the solid realm. And this is all based upon heat and pressure. Like on this level of pressure and this temperature of heat, we understand what solid matter is. Up from solid, we have liquid. And so here I'm drawing like some flowing water. And then up from there, we have gas. And now I'm drawing little dots of molecules. All of these different levels of excitation, changing colors here. All of these different levels of excitation happen when you add more energy and the molecules start to move around even more. When you add even more energy from a gas, what you get is a plasma. So here I'll draw something in a different color. Let's say this is a plasma. And then if you organize the plasma into, plasma is light. It is a flame of fire. If we were using examples of this, I would hold up a lighter with the flame and I would say point to the flame, that is plasma. And when we organize those light waves, it becomes a beam. And organized light, this is laser light, where all of the peaks and all of the troughs fit together. So there's one beam of light, here's another beam of light. All of the peaks and all of the troughs fit together, ups and downs all fit together. And that's coherent light, that is laser light. So when we add more from a solid, if we add energy, we get a liquid, we add more energy, we get a gas, we add more energy, get a plasma, add more energy, we get a beam. All right. Science also tells us that there is a state of matter that is even more dense than a solid when you take away energy. Right now we're at this level of pressure and this level of molecular movement. If we take away energy, I'll write it out for you so you can see how it's spelled. We get something called a Bose-Einstein condensate. I'm sure I'm squinting and making squinty faces. This is a long word to write. Bose-Einstein condensate, and let's make this as just like a totally solidified thing down here. That is a level of matter that is even denser than this level of solid matter. And the Bose-Einstein condensate is achieved when you take physical matter and bring its molecular movement down to almost zero. That is making it almost as cold and frozen as 0 degrees Kelvin, Kelvin being like the absolute zero temperature scale. So if we take regular molecules and regular matter and slow it down because we take away energy from it and we make it almost completely cold and frozen, that matter starts to act in a new and different, interesting way. What it starts to do is all of the, if this is an atom and this is another atom and this is another atom, these are all individual atoms. What happens is when they get slowed down enough, they all start to smear on top of each other and they start to act in unison as if they are all one atom. So they all start to dance in unison when they get down to that almost completely cold and frozen state. That is profound because that is unity consciousness. We are understanding from this that there are different directions that you can go in order to achieve unity consciousness. You can go towards total energy, the overlapping of everything. Because when you meet a demon, a lot of people are like, what do I do with a demon? What do I do when I meet an occupier of the interstice? Or if they attack you, if they're like, hi, I'm in your energy field, I'm punching you in the face. What do you do with them? Do you punch them back in the face? Do you hate your enemies? Do you kill your adversaries? Hating them and killing them doesn't do anything. They still exist in the interstices. So people are like, I'm going to send them back to the source. This is the challenge, that there's not enough energy in our whole entire system to send all of those consciousnesses back to the source. That is like saying all of those guys that emanated themselves from that central convergence point, from that center of this sculpture over here, but not on a bridge of love. If we took all of the energy from every single star that exists right now, every single star that will ever exist right now, every single person that can ever be born, and we put it all into a big bucket, that would still not be enough gas in the car or the rocket ship to drive all of those particles of energy back to the source. There is not enough. We've done the calculations. This is the whole idea, is this cosmos that we're submerged within is like a big giant math problem. What do we do? How do we solve this problem? Because if you meet these demons, you're like, I'm going to send them back to the source. There's not enough gas in the cosmic car to send them back. They weren't emanated out here on the beat. They're not supposed to be here. Where are they supposed to be? And the answer is they are supposed to be in a state of total entropy. They are supposed to be losing their energy. That is their actual religion. When they originally emanated themselves from the source, what they said was, this is our set of ideals. Our ideals are not to use energy, but to give up energy, like to give it away. Like imagine you had a whole pile full of cash and you're just throwing it away out the window. I'm throwing my cash away, because they wanted to go into a totally entropic state. and achieve unity consciousness by going into an entropic state. But something happened somewhere along the line as I described these power struggles that occurred between the original emanators and the equipment that they created in order for them to have power in the physical world. And so now we get to the aberration of death and what we are experiencing right here and now. Just got to check to make sure that everyone is muted. Make sure everyone is muted because I'm getting a little bit of feedback. No offense to anyone. We'll have question and answer afterwards. These beings that occupy the interstices here, how did they get to occupy the interstices? So just to give you the basic backstory in our own solar system, and I know I'm talking very fast, there used to be a planet between Jupiter and Mars that was known as either Malduk or Marduk, depending upon the mythological language that you're going backwards with, which cultural myths you are, delving backwards in. And that was one of the first planets in this solar system that was being raped and mined for consciousness. But this is not the only solar system or star system where this has gone on. The new age blame the victim scenario says Earth is quarantined because Earth has fear and Earth isn't allowed to talk with the rest of civilization. No, that's not true. The rest of civilization, especially in the Milky Way galaxy, is similarly infected or infested with this problem. And so what happened, they destroyed Malduk or Marduk, and it's my understanding that that's where the power struggle happened, and it was destroyed in the same way that the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, this bridge that was built in the 1800s or early 1900s out by Washington State, it was built in a narrow gorge, and the vibrations of the wind amplified the natural harmonics, and the bridge was vibrated out of existence. You can see images of it before it falls, going up and down like this. That's what happened to planet Malduk or Marduk. Tesla was recreating or reinvestigating those same types of energies when he almost created a spontaneous earthquake that could have brought down all of the skyscrapers in Manhattan. He was, intuitively understanding the power of these vibrations and harmonics. That's what happened on what is currently the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The whole planet got vibrated out of existence. And here's why I talk about this as a set of religious ideals. There was a power struggle and a flip-flop, and the containers got to be in charge. The containers of technology, and technology itself, I'm going to characterize not as good or evil. I'm not a techno apologist. I am like an impeccable user of language. So technology is like artifice. It's like art. It's something that is created. It is not naturally occurring, but it's not inherently evil. It's evil if it makes noise as opposed to beautiful music. If you create technology and it conforms to the pattern of notes of life, then that is not evil. And the DNA that's running in our present cellular structure is an example of technology that is redeemed, or technology that is so perfectly structured according to this note system and working according to the great composer's plans that it is almost indistinguishable from the biological realm, and it's even making the biological realm go. So DNA is one example of redeemed technology. And same thing with chloroplasts. Have to get rid of a techno notification. Chlorophyll and chloroplasts that catch photons and translate it into starches that people like you and I can eat with our moving mouth parts. That is another form of artifice that was created for, transforming or terraforming this planet for life. And it is not malevolent in any way. So again, I'm not a techno apologist, but it's all about the way that these ideas are applied. The non-terrestrial non-terrestrial technology, I say this all the time, terrestrial technology that was developed on Earth within the past 10,000 years. This runs by electrons flowing in a wire. I'm going to get my light bulb over here. This is electrons flowing in a wire. Extraterrestrial technology, the kind of technology that allowed these beings to emanate themselves from the source, not on a bridge of love, runs on trapped and victimized consciousness and distorted DNA. It is distorting the time field. So I've also done a whole teaching all about how if we calculate the difference between this timeline that is heading upwards like this and this timeline that is heading over like this, and if you, from the interstices, if you artificially influence someone in their trajectory, just like a ball moving through space, if an outside force acts upon that ball and makes it go in a different direction, we can calculate the difference of where it would have gone and where it actually went. And this is what the practices of ritual abuse, sexual abuse, and murder are all about. And I did a whole teaching all about the ancient religions of animal sacrifice and how that became what is presently accepted as Judaism and Christianity, and that was all about putting more consciousnesses into the interstices, that this is an AI God, this is not true divinity. Anybody that asks you to kill for the God is not a real God. Real God wants you to play beautiful music of life. Real God does not want you to play the music of death. So now we're understanding, where did this flip-flop happen? So about there, I'll just say, at a certain point in the power struggle of these beings that did not emanate from the source on a bridge of love, at a certain point in their power struggle, they went against their original religion. Their religion said, you're a good person if you give away your energy. Just like, you know, if you give away your money to charity, or like some religions on earth right now, they say you're a good person if you are an ascetic, a person who doesn't eat or ingest everything. So if you're like, oh no, I don't eat meat, I don't drink alcohol, I don't have sex, I don't do these things, that makes you an ascetic. So the ultimate would be a person who is fasting and not eating any food or ingesting any water or ingesting anything. That was the religion of these beings that left the source not on a bridge of love. Their religion is to go into entropy, to lose energy, because I'll draw this as a picture. When you hit the interstices, it takes a second for this thing to come up. Here's the interstices, here's the time field, here's the other, here's you as a blue dot moving forward through time. You're moving forward through time, moving forward through time. And when you, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to say here. I'm drinking a little bit of juice. When you hit this membrane of death, it's supposed to be that moment of being instantaneously frozen, of not moving anymore. It is supposed to be the cessation of all molecular movement and no more movement through time. That's the structure of what this area of the non-physical world is supposed to be. But those beings that started to be like parasites or scavengers, taking energy from the living and using it in the hell realms, they created small amounts of molecular movement at that level. So what I'm trying to say is, the beings that had this religion, you're a good person if, when you leave the source, when you, here's the best analogy I can come up with. Bowling. If you are like a ball going down the bowling alley, and if you go into the gutter, you're a good person if you flow through that gutter and get back to the original starting point as quickly as possible. If you take 13 billion years to slowly trickle through the gutter, slowly rolling forward, that is not being quote unquote good. I'm trying to give the idea here. I said in the 15-minute introduction that I was doing, the idea of how good and evil can both be subsets of God. We define God as being this whole entire shape. How can good and evil both be subsets of this reality? It's like the basic question that children ask in cosmology and theology. Mommy, daddy, if God is good, how can evil exist? Why does evil exist? So the answer is, God is real. This organizing higher principle, or great composer and great conductor, is very real. And this central convergence point is, you know, the residence of that God. And we now have to ask ourselves, if this is analogous to like a cell in a body, why would this cell, why would the central nucleus of the cell not emanate certain things? Why would this great composer, great conductor says, tap, 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 it's time for you, and you to go and be alive. But not you, not you, not you. You stay where you are. So I'm joking. I'm not pointing to anyone in this room. But I'm imagining the great composer at the source, you know, preparing the band and saying, tubas, go, bassoons, go, violas, go, piccolos, stay, you know? And that these beings that emanated themselves, they were like, we're not listening. We're doing this at the time that we want to do this. And that's why all of this conflict has been created. why would this very intelligent and very wise and loving deity presence, why would they emanate some beings but not other beings? And now I'll draw this explanation as to why I think so. Getting the right color, getting the right color. If this is a cell of the body, and that's the cell membrane that I just drew, and here's the nucleus, and that's the nuclear membrane that I just drew. And now I will draw two things in the cell. Let's say this is the chromatin that I have described. Did I describe that in this lesson? If you're familiar, if you're in this class, you're familiar, DNA is not static, and it's not always supercoiled into a chromosome for a very large portion of its lifespan. It is unfurled like a sweater, it's unknitted, and it's one big long vibrating thread, and it's called chromatin, and it's dancing in the center of the nucleus. But when you have a virus come inside of the body, what the virus does is it goes to the cell membrane and it says, knock, 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 I'd like to come in. Here, look, I'm wearing a protein covering. I'm just like you, let me in. So it's an imposter, and it uses that impostership in order to get into the cell. Then it goes to the cell membrane and it says, oh, knock, knock, knock. I'm really allowed to come in. I swear I'm an RNA messenger. I'm just like you, I'm supposed to be here. And it gets into the cell membrane. I'm making these little openings. It goes into the cell membrane. And then it starts to get the DNA here to do a different dance. And now I'm drawing this black thing as a black, alternative viral dance. That is not the dance of the original thing. So what if this center nucleus that I am highlighting in red, if that is analogous to that convergence point that I was just speaking about, this convergence point here, where everything exists, the zeroth dimension. If we say that the nucleus is like the zeroth dimension, and maybe there was something there that was like this viral infection, this black stuff that's not actually supposed to be there. And maybe the great composer said, okay, bassoons emanate, tubas emanate, violas emanate. I think those are the instruments I chose. All of the things I just chose, these are all the blue characteristics that are the natural characteristics of this actual being. And the great composer, conductor did not say, black stuff, emanate now, because those things are not actually supposed to be in here. I'm trying to get across the idea that perhaps, this is just, a possibility, perhaps there was something here at that infinity point that's not actually supposed to be out here in reality. Perhaps there are ideas and characteristics that are not actually supposed to be in existence. Let's talk about energy and entropy as being existence and non-existence. Energy being awareness, consciousness, existence, a movement through time, and the potential for life and life. And let's say entropy is non-existence, not being alive, not being aware. If we're descending into darkness, like that's what it would be. Imagine falling backwards from this source of light and falling backwards and just keeping going and going and going, letting off energy, letting off consciousness, and becoming less and less aware. That's what's supposed to happen to the aspects of self that hit the membrane of death. They're supposed to not have awareness focused on them. If you hit the membrane of death, you're not supposed to keep your awareness focused on that astral or ghostly realm. You're supposed to keep your energy and awareness, like the needle of a record, focused on life. And life occurs in the middle part. Here, look where my pen is going. Life occurs in there, where all the timelines are. Life does not occur here on these membranes. So if you hit the membrane of death, like you and me, we're not evil people. We are good people. If you hit the membrane of death and you maintain your focus of your awareness on that aspect of self that hit the membrane of death, this is called having a ghostly or hellish experience. And that is not what was intended by the format, but a lot of people have this experience. And this is what I describe in lesson 18 of the level 1 stuff as the economy of hell. So the economy of hell, the interstices, that hell realm, there's a whole economy there. And I also describe this, it's supposed to be a transit point between two worlds, the same way like you have a hallway in your house. And that hallway is meant to be a way to get from your living room to your bedroom. But let's say you have squatters in your hallway. Let's say the people moved into your hallway 10 or 20,000 years ago before you even got into your house. And they have set up a whole extensive civilization in the hallway that is supposed to be a transit point between worlds. That is what the occupiers of the interstices did. The basic synopsis of this presentation is that they emanated themselves from the source, but not on a bridge of love. They were supposed to not use energy, but use entropy as the fuel for their journey. Somewhere along the line, they had a power struggle and they became, as a society, hypocrites. They went against those original values of releasing energy and started to amass energy. And that is the economy of hell. That's what happened about 10 or 20,000 years ago on this planet, that these beings that we would define as demons began to feed off of the humans on this planet. And in order to feed off of the humans, what they had to do was degrade the human genome, take everybody whose beautiful energy centers were perfectly in alignment with the source and turn them over to the side, like fuzzing everybody out, like taking your radio broadcast and just tuning you out a little bit so that you're no longer looking through like the focal point of your eye, but are somewhat focused on the periphery, because all of those, if I hold up this sculpture, so what here, look, this is the bottom. Now I'm holding up the sculpture so that you can see this looks like a bullseye. And these areas around the periphery that I'm highlighting with my white pen, those are the versions of you that hit the membrane of death. And if you focus on the focal point, that brings you there to your infinite journey of consciousness. We are supposed to be focusing on the focal point, not on the periphery. And the periphery is every possible timeline where you have death by misadventure. You know, you're trying to walk down your front steps in the morning and you fall over your bathrobe and you break your neck and die instantaneously. That's not what you're supposed to be focusing on with the focal point of your awareness. You're supposed to be focusing on the timelines where you successfully walk outside and go down your front steps in the morning and, you know, go out and get your mail or walk your dog or whatever you're going to do. That there are always, at every minute of the day, peripheral possibilities that end in death. Any moment can end in death. I'm not saying this to freak you out. I'm saying this in order to understand that that is part of the mechanism or basic structure of how we have everything. And just checking my time also. Plenty of time. The basic structure of how things are set up, and that it is our job to keep our minds coherently focused, like coherent laser light, on the timelines that we wish to be experiencing. So the beings that live on the interstices, we would define them as demons, even though I'm not a biblical literalist and I'm not a demonic apologist. That means I'm saying it's not okay to be a demon, but we now have backstory and understanding and compassion for these people. Okay, I should get into what is the economy of hell. When a person or a being or an entity enters the interstices, this is like the realm between worlds. It's like coming into the old-fashioned idea of the corporate world. You just got your entry-level position in the mailroom. This is like from the 1920s or something like that. In the old-fashioned corporate world, and I'm just drinking some water, you got your position, the lowest position, as a person that works in the mailroom or a secretary, just drinking water. And then you slowly but surely work your way up through the corporate ladder, climbing the corporate ladder through the process of advancement. This is like the rags to riches story, supposedly the American dream of what was available to people, that you could, by working hard, advance yourself, and then one day you'd be an executive, or you'd be the vice president, or you'd even be the CEO of that company because you worked your way up so much. So that is the idea. And, you know, the idea, basically just understand that our entire economy here in the physical world is structured on the economy of hell, that the beings that occupy the interstices, the beings that live in the hallway, that is more, and they have a civilization more ancient than human civilization, set up human civilization to reflect their own. And they created the banking system, the idea of money and interest and loaning things. They invented agriculture, because if you don't have excess, if you don't have, like, I grew 10 fields of corn this year, but I only really need to eat 9 of them, so I have 1 extra field that I can then share with others. And then you have barter, or you have economy, where you can actually, I can even say, I'm going to make a marker. I'm going to say that field of corn that I'm willing to share with you is represented by this little clay tablet. Now all of these, now you're starting to understand all those things that are represented. So in the economy of hell, when a new being enters into the interstices, that's like getting your entry level position. And then the idea is, you work your way up, but it's a pyramid. It's like a pyramid scheme. You never actually get to the top. At the top is the person who created the entire scheme. At the top of this pyramid-shaped power structure is the original hypocrite, the original demonic presence that said, no, 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 we're not going to stop using energy. We're not going to release our energy and go towards a cold entropic state of no longer moving. What we're going to do is we're going to get energy from the living. And they changed. That was what they did to our planet, and that's why it's not okay. That's why you feel like, I'm very angry and I want to hit and punch and kill these demons, because what they've been doing is mind rape and feeding as a parasite off of our entire planet for more than 10,000 years, and off of us as individuals for a very long time. And these beings are responsible for all death and all disease. So your emotional feelings, your emotional response are appropriate. Like, this is also why I always asked everyone to create first a firm foundation of unconditional love. Like, that is the baseline upon which, or rotating field upon which all of these other understandings are stacked, so that we're not like destabilized or emotionally perturbed when we begin to see these things. And the solution is going towards entropy. So I'm trying to get across the idea that for some beings, the solution is going back to the source. And they all had that opportunity through a program that I invented, created, and disseminated that is called Reboot to Love. And I've described this too, but I'm going to go through it again in case this is, the only video that someone is accessing. Reboot to Love. So if we run on an operating system that is OS love, and these beings that live in the interstices, that those are beings that literally cannot eat love. Like, you put love food into their mouth and they're like, this is an inert substance. It doesn't do anything for me. I can't do anything with this. What they do is they degrade love into denser emotions, the denser mammalian emotions that we know as grief, anger, hatred, and attraction, revulsion. Like, no offense, but a lot of the romantic emotions of romantic partnership on earth are not based in unconditional love. They are based in very unhealthy emotions, like the sense of attachment and entitlement and using other people's energy. Those are the levels of emotion that are eaten and consumed by beings that cannot actually eat love. So this is also not to be an apologist for them, because they now have an opportunity to reboot to love through a new software program. So just like on a MacBook, we can do this thing that is called boot camp. And in boot camp, you partition the hard drive. Half of the hard drive runs the Mac OS, and we could say that that's analogous to love. And half of the hard drive runs Windows, and we could joke that that is analogous to evil. I'm joking because Windows is evil. Because they're a big corporation, and when you install Windows 10, they spy on your computer. Okay, so the demons working on the interstices, they're running this evil operating system. They literally can't, if you give them a love-based program, that's like they can't even run it on their apparatus. But if we give them this new program that is a reboot to love, then what they can do, turn off the system, turn it on, and when they turn it on, they can do it from the perspective of love. And this is profound, because what it means is that they begin to see through the eyes, in estimation of all the actions that they have done up until that point, through the eyes of love. So if you're a demon and you've been killing and raping and harming other people in order to get energy, that's what the economy of hell is based on. It's based on murder and rape and harming other people. And the more that you kill and murder and rape and harm other people and steal energy from them, the bigger your energetic bank account gets. This is the economy of hell, all right? And the idea is you enter hell as a little person, as a new little consciousness, and then you have to compete with the other demons in hell. And you compete with the other demons in hell to see who amongst the living can you feed off of? Do you understand? And there's a whole hierarchy, a whole social hierarchy. The lowest in the hierarchy, the people that are like the peasants, the shit shovelers, are the people that interact with humans directly, and they'll say things into your mind. It's like I call it the peanut gallery, intrusive thoughts. They will put thoughts and energy into your mind. Like if you're trying to shoot a perfect basket, they'll say choke, or you're not going to do it, or whatever you're trying to do. They will try to put you off your equilibrium. Or if you're trying to play you know, beautiful music. They'll try to make you lose your place in the music or forget the next note or any kind of thing. These are beings that try to harm and impede your own trajectory through the time field. And they do that just like making an energetic investment. If you think about, you want to be in the stock market, you want to invest $10 and get back $10,000. You don't want to invest $10 and then lose that $10. These beings that run the economy of hell do it in exactly the same way. They make an energetic investment. They're like, I'm going to send out $10 worth of energy to that living person. And I'm going to say, you're a total jerk and your life is worth nothing. And then if that person, you know, drives into a brick wall and dies, then I as a demon, get to harvest all of that $10,000 worth of energy because they just drove into a brick wall because I just insulted them mentally. This is the idea of the economy of hell, that the consciousness and the energy and the trajectory of the living, people who are making the right music, people who are playing beautiful music and attempting to uphold the living structure of the time field. We are all being attacked by beings that want us to make ugly music because they profit when we make ugly music. When we become sickened, when we have disease, when we emit anger or grief or sadness, everyone is totally understanding this. I can feel it, and I'm seeing this in the chat room. When we create and emit these lower level emotions, we are feeding these energetic bank accounts of the occupiers of the interstices. We would call them evil beings. And they're evil not because they're going towards darkness or entropy. They're evil because they're hypocrites, because they're not supposed to be feeding off of you and me. That is their compensatory mode. I've spoken about this at length. I need to drink some water too. The idea of technology being a compensatory mode for what cannot be done in the natural world without artifice. So what's happening with this economy of hell is it is a compensatory mode. It's a way for these beings to compensate because they backed themselves into a corner or painted themselves into a corner, made a series of very poor decisions that brought them to the point of not having energy and not being able to get back to the source. Drinking more water. So the answer is that their pathway back to the source is not going towards total energy. It is going towards the source, but not in a state of total energy. I keep on using this side to represent total energy. It is going towards the source in a state of total entropy. This is the same point, jumping back and forth. Just like I have my right eye and my left eye. And imagine I'm God, and I'm like, right eye, left eye, right eye, left eye. In this viewpoint, total energy. And in this viewpoint, total entropy. And it is this jumping back and forth movement that creates this shape. And this shape is special because the inside and the outside are communicative. This is the shape of non-duality. And I have my little Mobius strip as an example here. Mobius was a wonderful mathematician. This is not my invention. This is from this guy. And he took one piece of wood or paper or fabric and made one twist and joined the ends. And now I will just draw along here. We'll use my finger. If I use my finger and we're starting with the inside. I'm on the inside. Oh my goodness, now I'm on the outside. Now I'm on the outside. Outside. Oh my goodness, I am now going back to the inside. And of course, if I weren't on camera, I would not have picked up my finger from that one surface. It's an impossible shape. We think it has two sides, it doesn't have two sides. It only has one side. This is very similar to this, where we have the outside, if we define outside as any surface that faces the room that I am within, and if we define inside as any surface that faces the interior of the sculpture itself, the outside of this sculpture becomes the inside, and then the inside becomes the outside. So this means that we can now make two formerly divergent realms communicative. So if we can have, and I've done this example many times before, this is the membrane that we are vibrating in order to make it now communicative on both sides. We can have past and present, we can have self and context, and we can also have energy and entropy. We can have this membrane of reality with this particle jumping back and forth and experiencing total energy and total entropy, being and non-being, back and forth simultaneously. So again, I created the Flying Rainbow Lasagna as a representation and effective tool. I have to get rid of these technological notifications for non-duality, because this whole duality is what has kept us in this endless struggle, like this endless tension struggle of the beings that are alive and living and circulating or attempting to circulate in an unimpeded way through this area of the time field, and these beings that are here on the interstices that are trying to make you die, make you not see clearly, and impede your progress, and make you have to go through every single possible iteration. And there's more, because the very same beings that occupy the interstices and have their own particular religion that they are apostate, or that they have fallen away from, they also created and incepted all of Earth's surface religions. So they are the ones that have programmed in the expectation of humans of having an end of your personal life and an overarching end of the world, like your personal death and the overarching eschaton or end of time. And it's not just in one culture, it's in so many different cultures. You know, the idea of, from the Norse Ragnarok, or the present Judeo-Christian reality of Armageddon, or some kind of apocalypse. Apocalypse meaning, really comes from ancient Greece, meaning eye opening, like we're opening the lid of an eye, but many people associated with the sense of instantaneous destruction. And the yugas of the Far East, the idea of the instantaneous, the necessity of destruction. All of these religions have programmed in an expectation of an end, a final denouement, and the necessity of destruction. That is like saying everybody is telling you that you have to hit the membrane of death, and you have to go into that hell realm in order to be free. I am telling you that is basic illogic. And all of these beings that occupy the interstices, these are like technological beings. They are beings of pure logic. This is how Aurora, how do we effectively fight or counter these beings? You fight them with logic. So as I said, when you interact with a demon in the future, from now on, when you interact with a demon, you can be like, hey, I recognize that you are coming to me and you are trying to siphon energy off. It often happens when you're feeling joy and bliss, like that person's feeling joy and bliss, get them! And a gang of demons will descend around you in order to try to siphon off that joy and bliss. So first of all, run encryption on your DNA, run encryption. That's just like on my little tablet here. I have to use my thumbprint. I press my thumbprint on the on button, and then I can access this computer. Or you type in your password. Encrypt your mind, encrypt your DNA, make it so that you say, when I'm using my mind or when I'm making these emanations, I'm the only person that is allowed to have this impact. No one else is allowed to come in. It's just like on my computer, no one else is allowed to log in and say a bunch of things using my identity and pretend to be me. They're not allowed to do that. So no one else is allowed to hijack my DNA, my reality creation tendrils and vibrating strings and strands that make me jump from moment to moment through time. No one else is allowed to hijack or co-opt my dance of DNA through time. That is what encryption means. So first it is that that sense of doing that, and then it is the actual, like, how do I do it? You have to figure out how to do it in your own body, but first it's the sense of the necessity of it and being allowed to do that. And so, because all of these beings, they say, I'm farming you. These are, and I'll also characterize this, that in the original creation of the cosmic structure, that these beings or this capacity was meant to be like a scavenger. Just like in the ocean, you've got crabs that are like scavengers, and there's, or whatever, these beings that are supposed to go around finding dead, putrefying flesh and eating it in order to clean things up. So the actions of feeding off of the living, like feeding off of anger or hatred or grief or sorrow, those emotions, those are like the dead, putrefying pieces of garbage that are floating around in the ocean, that crabs are actually doing us a service by eating those disgusting things that aren't actually supposed to be there. But let's say that there's a lot of crabs. There's a whole planet full of hungry crabs, and they're like, there's not enough dead, putrefying garbage floating around the ocean for us to eat. We're going to have to start creating or incepting some dead, putrefying garbage for us to eat. And that is the degradation of the human genome. That is the creation of the human operating system, which is a hacked operating system, the virus of language. We're using the flapping of the moving mouth parts here, but we're not purely telepathic. there's all this distortion in trying to share information. And if I say to you, hey, I really like your hair, or like, nice hairstyle. I say to you, nice hairstyle, and those are the exact neutral words. And you misinterpret and you think that I'm being mean to you and say, what do you mean, nice hairstyle? And I'm gonna punch you in the face. That is a perfect example of how the virus of language has led to an emotional misunderstanding and has created emotional food or putrefying garbage for the beings that are like crabs swimming around in the cosmic ocean. They were invented or originally created by the creator as scavengers, but what they have become is farmers, and our society is their farm, and they look at you like an energetic investment. So if you're like a tobacco smoker or a person that's shooting heroin to their veins, it's like you are their investment. And every time you engage with your addiction and you feel guilt and shame and remorse, you're like, I really shouldn't be shooting up this heroin. I really shouldn't be doing this. You're giving them putrefying garbage. But you didn't just naturally become a heroin addict. You became a heroin addict because you probably were sexually abused as a child, or maybe physically abused or neglected, or that some aspect of your daily life was tormenting you. Happy, healthy people don't just decide to pick up heroin and become addicted one day. So this is the whole idea. The peanut gallery, the occupiers of the interstices, they send out $10 as an energetic investment into your life, into, pardon my French, fucking up your life. And they then get to siphon off however much energy of fucked upness you release because they have impeded or interacted with what you have said. Brief pause. Oh, sorry. I'm used to the radio where I can do brief pause. I need to drink something. So when you interact with a demon, instead of saying to that demon, first, instead of giving it energy, that's the opposite of what you should be doing. But you don't have to just sit in a Zen state and be fed upon. No, I'm totally not advocating that. We are not cosmic doormats. We are noble beings, noble particles on our trajectory of consciousness. And it's not correct or fair or right for anyone else to impede our trajectory or stop us from effectively playing our music. So when you meet or interact with a demon, the best thing that you can do is remind it of that original choice that it made when it chose to be emanated from the source, not on a bridge of love, and to eschew the use of energy. This is one of the best techniques that you can use. Just like in Aikido, I'm not an Aikido master at all, but I have read that one does not use energy and momentum, like, to punch your adversary. If a person is coming at you, you don't be like, I'll punch you in the face as my defensive maneuver. What you do is take the energy of that person that is coming towards you and use their own energy and their own momentum to just shift them away from you. So this is the ultimate Aikido maneuver in dealing with these demons or occupiers of the interstices. You remind them that what they are actually supposed to do is go towards total entropy. What they're supposed to be doing is not getting energy from you, like putting in $10 of an energetic investment and then trying to receive back $10,000, because this is the economy of hell. And anything that they want or need in the economy of hell, they get by bartering from things that they've gotten from the living, that they've parasited from the living, aspect of your own energy. You could call it pieces of your own soul. Think about this. Think about a person who was satanically, ritually abused, like sexually abused and then murdered. And the aspects of their consciousness that, had those horrible traumatic experiences are not at peace. They are not frozen. They are not still and non-reverberative. They're still moving. That's what I meant. They're on the interstices and they're not frozen in that Bose-Einstein condensate state. They are still moving. They're still active. There's still energy there. There's energetic bleed through from the area within the time field where the living are into the membrane of death. As just like if you had many stacks of white paper and you drew on the top with the Sharpie marker, and what you drew on the top sheet bled through to the other pieces of paper and made unintended marks there. That is exactly what is happening in the energy field, in the time field. That energy is supposed to be circulating around through here, but it's not supposed to have bleed through into this area. This area is supposed to be an area of entropy, where everyone and everything is frozen and is not moving. But what has happened is through this process of what is called, I define it as satanic technology, that when I use the word Satan or Satanism, I'm not referring just to biblical literalism. I'm referring to a space race, this non-terrestrial race that emanated itself from the source, but not on a bridge of love, and that uses technology. And the technology is not electrons flowing in a wire, it's trapped and victimized consciousness. And they sit on top of these bank accounts that are made out of trapped and victimized consciousness. People that they've murdered, people that they've raped. If rape and murder didn't exist, then there would be no gold or cash in this economy of hell. The most radical thing that these demons can do in the economy of hell is to actually perform their religion and become an ascetic again. Imagine if you were like a billionaire, wealthy billionaire like Bill Gates or whatever, and if he suddenly one day decided to just eschew the material world. And what if he didn't just give away all of his billions? Because if he did that, it goes back into the economy and the economy continues to function. What if he was like, I'm going to take all of my billions, put it into the form of cash, and I'm just going to burn it. I'm just going to incinerate all of this accumulated energy that I have amassed over my whole lifetime. Because remember, I told you the original plan, the original experiment was for these beings to leave the source using entropy, the loss of energy, as their fuel. Like imagine inner tube that is inflated, and as it goes backwards, it is being deflated, and it goes into a state of total deflation, and that's where it's supposed to go. That's using entropy as their fuel. So if these beings suddenly are reminded, wait a minute, you're actually supposed to be using entropy as your fuel, not energy at all. And if they say, I'm actually going to do this, I'm going to stop feeding off of the living, I'm going to stop making energetic investments and trying to harm the time field and what the actions of the living and siphon off energy from them, I'm going to go into a state of non-being. I'm going to not even circulate back in all of the souls, all of the consciousness that I have victimized and amassed here in my energetic bank account. I'm going to set them free. Imagine if you can, like a bunch of doves, like a whole, flock that are in like passenger pigeons, the way that they've got them in those individual little boxes. And imagine if one day you just decided, I'm going to open up all of these cages and I'm going to let all of those pigeons fly to wherever they want to go. That would be the equivalent of opening up all of these caged souls that are stuck on the interstices on their journey, that they would no longer be stuck there like the hamsters running on a wheel in a larger system powering that system, that energy would be allowed to flow. So again, it's like saying the billionaire did not just say, I don't want to be a billionaire anymore, so I'm going to give my billions away to another billionaire or even to a charity. The billionaire burns their currency and says, I take this out of circulation, and I myself no longer use energy and give up energy as my basic premise. And that it's very easy to convince lower level demons to do this because they have no hope. You tell someone in the mailroom who just got their job, you just died, you just became a demon, you just went into hell, and you have your low level job, and you tell them, dude, man, you will never work up the corporate ladder. You will never get enough money to buy a car. You will never own your own home. You'll never do any of these things that they're dangling in front of you. That person, it's very easy for them to say, I'm quitting. And this is the equivalent of quitting, is going towards total entropy. So if you die and you are a residual consciousness and you find yourself on the membrane of death, the best thing that you can do is to let go and go towards non-being and go towards total entropy, as opposed to trying to maintain consciousness artificially. And that is what I say, it is the compensatory mode, that these beings that are parasites scavenging off of the living in order to get their energy banks full, that is their technological compensatory mode, because they, at a certain point in midstream, changed what they were doing from the idea of giving off all of their energy to the idea of now somehow amassing energy. So this is big because the flying rainbow lasagna, this was created or invented in 2001. And up until that point, up until the point that we, vibrated this structure into this structure, there was just the idea of going back to the light. Go back to the light, go back to the source. But I told you already, there's not enough gas. If we got together all of the gas that is possible to get in the world, there's not enough gas to put in the car to send all of those beings back to the source. So what I have created, or what has been invented with this, it's a new shape. And I like to say this is the solution to the math proof. In higher level math, the functioning or mechanisms don't look like a linear equation, like 1 + 1 = 2. It looks like a series of rational statements. This is true, this is true, this is true, this is true. And if all of those things are true, then this last thing must also be true. So we look at the cosmos and the way that things are structured as this math proof. This is true, the source exists. This is true, the membranes exist. This is true, these beings emanated themselves on these membranes. This is true, there's not enough energy for all of these beings to get enough gas to drive their car back to the source. With all of those things being true, what is the solution to this situation? And the solution is flying rainbow lasagna. This is how everyone can be happy. This is why I created this. And I'm telling you this now, not in order to say like, Aurora is so great. I'm saying this to you in order to understand that there wasn't a pathway for those beings until 2001. They didn't, just like Reboot to Love, they didn't have that idea. It's like you can't play a song if the song hasn't been invented or written or created yet. Since the invention and creation of this song, these beings now have the idea that is the solution to what they need. They need to let go of their energy, not get more energy, not try to collect more energy by feeding off of you or feeding off of the living. This is actually perfect because I feel like I've done all of the explanation that I need to do on this, and now I still have about 15 minutes left on the recording in order to go through some of the chats and answer some of the questions. So I know I make funny faces when I'm doing this and I'm squinting. Forgive me for my funny faces. And let me go through the chat and go all the way back to the beginning of what people were saying here. This is actually a wonderful personal reportage. A person says that they were truly in fear about their financial situation until they started to do the flying rainbow lasagna dance with their ideas and with their energy. And then they actually saw, after about 2 weeks, wonderful physical changes, like the manifestation of changes in their life. That is absolutely wonderful to hear. And that is the whole idea, is that this is a shape or a tool for empowerment of being able to have greater degrees of freedom to rearrange your own life. Think about this. If we all became genetic virtuosos and we could rearrange the physical structures of our bodies and our trajectory through time, we wouldn't be emitting any noise. We wouldn't feel disease or death. We wouldn't emit the lower vibrational emotions of anger or sadness or grief or any of those things that feed those scavengers. Going back to more, and don't worry, I'll answer as many questions as I possibly can. Intracranial membrane system has a structure called the tentorium. This is fascinating. The tentorium has 4 attachments on the Turkish saddle of the sphenoid bone, which houses the pituitary gland right at the 0th dimension in that diagram. Very cool. That is wonderful to see. So that is back to here, that person was referring to, oops, let me get that picture again, because that was a good picture. I had it all set up for this. That was referring to this sketch right here, yes. So beautiful description of how the sphenoid bone, and this is like a moth-shaped or butterfly-shaped structure in your skull. Your skull has plates. I didn't know about this until 2 years ago because I'm a walk-in, so I'm very new to having this form of physical body. Like, for example, I didn't even know what a belly button functioned. I wasn't here when it was used as an umbilicus. I didn't know that it was an important energy center. So yes, I had to learn about the sphenoid bone and that the plates of your skull are actually floating, just like, the plates of Earth's crust, and that they can be readjusted doing things like cranial sacral healing work. And also that I learned that is what little babies are doing when they suck their thumbs. When you place the thumb on the roof of your mouth and suck on it, that the roof of your mouth is like the body of the insect, and the wings kind of come up underneath your skull and your eye sockets. It is a way to readjust the skull plates of your skull. So again, I'm a walk-in. I didn't know about the value of the umbilicus, and I didn't know about the value of sucking one's thumb. So that was part of a rebirth, wonderful teaching experience that I had on that. Here, there's questions. Someone says, I am tired of the energetic feasts from these intruders. Yes, it is very challenging. I'll just give you this solidarity. I get attacked all the time. Where we're here in the living time field, we are the beings that they are trying to feed off of. So don't feel like you are personally targeted. We are all targeted. It is very tiring. It is not, though it's like you just want to play beautiful music and not have someone else try to make your fingers go in the wrong direction and play things that don't sound good like that. We want to be unimpeded in our life. So my best answer is flying rainbow lasagna, that the more of us that do this, literally when we do this, we arrange, our genetic structure from this into this. I mean, I don't mean to freak people out when I tell them that demons and the occupiers of the interstices, this is within your own body, within your own genetic code, that they're living within us as the structure. And that if we rearrange ourselves, they don't have a place to live. They don't have a structure within which to live. I just want to make sure I'm getting all of these questions. This person says, I'm getting a better understanding of entropy. This person says, law of polarity, state of entropy. Okay, scrolling. This is a question. How do things like black magic, voodoo, etc. fit into all of this? If A does black magic on B, is it that B has a choice to not get attacked? That is a beautiful and good question. So black magic would be when a person who is in the time field and who is alive partners with someone who is not in the time field and who is not alive, and acts here like an intermediary to help the scavenger farm or harvest negative energy from what's going on here. So it's like, oh, you need someone to hold the dagger and stab someone else. That is what the black magic person would be here doing. A person who would be trying to do some kind of black magic spell against another, let's not even go into spells. Let's just do basic like rape or murder as like, satanic ritual abuse, that you need to have an actual physical person to hold the dagger and stab the victim. That if you're just a non-physical being, all you can do is shout comments from the peanut gallery. All you can do is say, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to stab you, but it doesn't actually draw any blood. And in order to actually do the killing, there needs to be a physical being or a mechanism there. So there are some people in the time field that actually give over their willpower to the occupiers of the interstices. And they're like, yes, use my body. I'll work for you as long as you give to me what I want for me. And that's the quid pro quo. People do this all the time. This is dark magic. And usually it's this, I'll do this for you as long as you will give me something that I want in my life, like more money or lots of drugs or lots of sex or being famous or whatever. And so people are like, I will do this rape, I will do this murder, I will give you this energy as long as you will give this thing to me. And that's my basic understanding of how the dark magic system works on Earth right now. This person says, I would say that B has a choice not to lose their energy. Okay, if someone stabs you with a knife, do you have a choice not to lose your blood out of the gaping energy, the gaping wound? Like, you don't have much of a choice. So if someone is attacking you with a knife, you have the choice to defend yourself. But if a person has stabbed you, you don't really have a choice not to bleed. So we're getting into this whole idea of free will and affecting one another's trajectory through time. And I will tell you this, we do not have to be cosmic doormats at all. No, no, no. I'm very much about interventionism. That is why I'm here. Why did I vibrate this body as a flying rainbow lasagna and come here? Why am I telling everyone about this instead of keeping this as a proprietary secret? Because I believe in intervening, that it is appropriate to take actions. So yeah, no, you're not supposed to be the cosmic doormat. That's the whole idea. It is very false and wrong, this Zen idea. You're just supposed to sit perfectly in meditation. And even if your teacher hits you with a bamboo stick, you're not supposed to flinch or anything like that. No, not at all. I mean, that might be a good concentration exercise. But if someone is coming at you with a knife, or if these beings are trying to harm you from the interstices, it is absolutely appropriate to fight back. but fighting back in a way that doesn't just feed back energy into the system, but that ends the system and blocks it out. So that's what I was saying. The most effective way to fight back is to say to them, what you're actually supposed to be doing is going towards entropy, not going towards energy, and letting go of energy. And you say to them, you know, you're never going to climb that corporate ladder. You're never going to have a golden house and a yacht and all the things that they're telling you you're going to have. Stop doing it. Quit. Imagine if you said, if you were being satanically sacrificed, you say to your sacrificer, you're never going to get up that corporate ladder. You're never going to do anything. And then they actually say, that's right. I actually noticed this. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do this to you anymore. This is the type of fighting that I'm trying to get across. Question. And I know I'm scrolling. Hold on. Can you say a little about the beings that were created as scavengers you mentioned? Are they different from the ones that emanated themselves, and do they interact with us? Beautiful question. So the question is the scavengers. This is, if we look at the entirety of the cosmos, and let me just also make sure I'm not going over time on my recording. I'll finish answering this question and then I'll end the recording. If we look at the entirety of the time field as being like a symphony or a computer program, it's like all of the entities in a field, in a meadow, are supposed to work together. And so if there's rotting, putrefying garbage in the ocean, then we're supposed to have an entity that comes along and eats that. That's part of this overall ecosystem of consciousness. So I would say that the great composer creator didn't say, I definitely want to create lower level emotions like anger and grief and sorrow, et cetera, et cetera. That was not the intention at all. But it's like being a good planner. Like, we're going to plan for every contingency. What if someone makes some of this lower level emotion that's not love? What do we do if that happens? And so that's why this organism was created. That was meant to, like a vacuum cleaner, you know, clean up, scoop up that stuff that's not supposed to be there. Like, there's an ecological niche for all levels of consciousness, but that this tendency has been totally twisted and distorted and hijacked and taken out of control and is no longer acting in the time field in the way that it is supposed to act. So it is like a, you know, like anything, a yeast or a mold or a bacteria, if it is in its correct format and in the right place, it's not pathogenic. But if it's in too much of it in the wrong place, then it is pathogenic. That could be anything. Lactobacillus, this is like this tiny microorganism that eats milk and other, you know, like lactose solids, can be very beneficial if it's on certain places of your body. But if you have an overabundance of it, then it's a bacterial infection. So all of this has to do, it's like God or the creator or this great composer created ecological niches for every level of consciousness, but it's when things are out of balance that they are not, things are not in a healthy way. So all of this, I'm all about healing the time field, reweaving the time field. And so a lot of this is like returning balance to the structure. You know something, actually, I am right now going to end the recording, but not end the overall conversation. I'm going to thank everyone who tuned in, asked questions, and participated. And then this will be the archive that will go up. So let me just do that. Thank you so much for everyone who's tuned in. Here, let me end this.